Hey folks, and welcome back to Lonely Horde Guitars. If you watched my shop tour a little while back, you'll know one of the things that I had second thoughts about was my drum sander. I should have got the wider one. So I did. In this video, we'll assemble it and we'll give it a test drive. No instructions. I already built one of these. Should be able to figure it out. Theoretically, it's the exact same stand as my existing drum sander, and I probably could have just removed the head and dropped the new head up on it. But it's new, it's fresh, it's clean. I'll assemble it, so let's get started. Outside of the feet assembly, all the screws and nuts are the same. And I've got a little square notch here that locks into the hole, so it should be fairly easy to just line up and assemble everything as needed. So let's go ahead and do that. Just hand tighten everything till we get the whole thing put together. The nut is 12 millimeter. And exactly enough screws and nuts. Now once everything is assembled, let's go ahead and lock it down. This guy should be on the inside. Feet are feet, nut, washer, washer nut. Adjust the height by loosening and tightening this bottom nut. We'll do the same for all the others. All I did was sort of roughly put them in place with the idea that I would level it out and keep it from being wobbly before I put the head on top, but it appears to be pretty good. So blind luck wins the day. Ooh, free plywood. Appears to be bolted to a couple sheets of plywood. Yes. Oh, and here are the assembly instructions for the stand. Gonna need my shop helper. All right, short time later, we've got the shop helper has got me, or helped me lift this up onto the stand, perpendicular to the way it's actually going to get mounted. It actually is quite steady. Most of the weight is right here, so it's not tipping anyway. The next step is we need to remove the packing plywood here. There's little 6mm Allen wrench bolts underneath here. And then we'll use those to, we want to save them so that we can use it to bolt it to the stand. Now I can see why the stand is actually the same for both the 16 and the 18. This bed is actually all the same. The only thing that is changing is the head, and the motor's a little bit bigger on the 18. If you look at the 16, the sanding surface actually ends about 2 inches shy of where the belt ends. So you always kind of had to keep in mind, you know, stay about here and over. And on the 18, the belt and everything is exactly the same, but the head goes all the way across. Next step is to install the height adjustment handle. There is a little flat surface on this pin, and then a 3mm set screw. Just tighten that down. Then they want you to raise the head. Instructions say that there is some sort of block. Yes, there is. A tiny little wood block. Keep everything from bouncing around. Okay, now let's rotate this guy and get him lined up and ready for mounting. Looks pretty close. Let's see if our it does slide. Now be careful not to slide it off. Got one in. Got the opposite one in. And let's shuffle a little bit closer to the wall. Let's see if everything works. Power's on. Bed seems a little bit noisier than the other one was. All right. So I am going to take the outfeed tables, infeed and outfeed tables from that one, and move it over to this one. All right, I've removed the two outfeeds from the older table, or the two, the infeed and the outfeed. Just a heads up, because I didn't notice this when I first installed it on the older drum sander, is that these are not symmetrical. There are shorter bars and there are longer bars, and the longer bars are for the infeed table and the short bars are for the outfeed table. And when I first installed them, I think I did the infeed table on the outfeed side because I didn't notice they were different sizes. And then when I went to go put the other one on, I was like, oh, this doesn't fit. I must have done something wrong. So just a heads up to keep an eye out for that. There are two bolts on each arm. These are already kind of assembled, so I wasn't going to take it completely apart, but this is how you adjust the tables to stay level with the belt, and I'll kind of go over there how to adjust those after we get it up and installed. So again, 6mm Allen wrench to get them on and off. Kind of a pain to get to. Your hands have to be sort of tucked up in there. But let's do that. All right, here's our two holes that we're gonna screw into. Let's see if we can do this without it being too much of a mess. If it really gets tough, we can always take the shelf off, mount the arms, which will be significantly easier than trying to do this while it's all assembled, I think. All right, that's not too bad. Hand tighten everything and then lock it down. And then the same thing on the other side. All right, so now we're about ready to align the infeed and outfeed tables with the bed itself. And I've just got a couple of levels here which are fairly straight. You could use one level and just move it back and forth. And as you can see, like, this table is way too high right now. So we've got this huge gap. What we would do is we would adjust the screw that's right behind here, drop the table down, and then see if we can get this aligned so that it looks more like what's over here. But here the gap it's a little bit shy, so we're going to bump that table up a little bit. And let's do that. All right, that side looks pretty good. Now this flat, this looks low on both sides. And I don't make it completely loose. Try and give it a little bit of tension so it's easier to sort of hold in place when you tighten it. The other thing I've done in the past is actually clamp. Because once you start to try and turn it, it will pull. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. It actually doesn't look nearly as bad, but I'll do that off camera. For our test run, I glued up this curly redwood, I don't know, probably about a year or so ago. Now there is a little bit of lip and there's some glue, so it just kind of needs to be touched up. Now this isn't we won't bring it down to final thickness because we still want to put a rosette in it and decide exactly where we want to cut it out. But this is about 16 inches and a half. I would not have been able to do this on the previous one. I removed the paper that came with it. There was some 80 grit stuff there. That's a little bit too rough for doing what I want to do here. So I've got some 120 that I ordered in anticipation of getting this. Let's go ahead and set ourselves up. Well, this is one of those skills that takes a little bit of practice. And I usually have to kind of work back and forth. Oh, like I have run out of space, so I did not give myself enough. This does not. You can have a little bit of gap, you just don't want any overlap. And this has actually gone too far. Okay, that feels snug. That feels snug. Make sure there's no play. Let's get some hearing protection. Everything tested out, does exactly what I had hoped. I can do this all in one swipe. I don't have to pass it through in 2 swipes and end up with like a little seam that I have to sand by hand. This works great. So now the only things left is to clean up the old one and get it ready for Facebook Marketplace. You know, I probably should have looked into this, but I wonder if, since everything else is the same, I could have just bought a new sanding head. Boy, if I'd known now, or known then what I know now. Anyways, if this is the kind of content you like, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one.